streams in front of other guys, but if women tried that, they'd be pulled in. You don't do that. That's that's not ladylike. But so they had pockets when they were younger, and women had dresses, no pockets. It's changed today somewhat, but it's still very much the same in a lot of ways. So guys had a broader range, and they looked at more things, and they tried more things, so they invented more. And Jacque always said, like, the first extrusion was made by guys watching other guys taking a shit, and they got the idea of the first extrusion, But anyhow, this is you make a shape, and you heat. Yes, you're feeling that one. You heat a long tube of aluminum, so it can be pushed through that shape, and in this case it was a U shape. And then they extrude it out, and they cut it 40 feet, 25 feet, and they use it in the building trade. And this is just to show how complex an extrusion can be. This says something like, extrusions around the world, buy from this company. And they would, the same thing, and they would split it really thin and put it on different things. And this is how Jacque designed the prefabricated home right after World War II. He thought that the aircraft factories were going to close, the aluminum factories, that do aluminum, and so he designed an aluminum house for them so they wouldn't have to close. And then he designed some of the first extrusions that were really, really complex, and they worked real well. So anyway, he talks about extruding full buildings. And you make dies, different shapes, and you extrude the material, and then you cut it. And then you lift it with this and carry it to the site and put it on this way. Of course, this is kind of for film, but you really don't even need to do that. You can put it down here, and you can lift it up and snap it in place.
No one's really working.
They could watch over.
No, they will. They will.
So just limited work.
All of the things that Jacque designs, they eventually come out in technology. They have, and from what I've seen, yeah. But what
I was saying, like, no one's going to be doing hard labor.
Why would we want that? It's a waste of people. It's like going to a store. Look at these poor people sitting behind the counter all day long, waiting for people to come in to sell them something.
There will be people to look over it, though.
No, you don't even need that after a while. In the beginning, yeah.
So these modules would be like wired and everything. The modules?
Yeah, they could be wild. They can have shapes within it.
When you plug them into the building unit, then you just have to connect it.
It's like a cannon plug. You can just plug in from the main shaft.
Buckminster Fuller came up with that idea as well.
Buckminster Fuller had a lot of good, a lot of good ideas. He was really good technically, but he was really bizarre in a lot of ways. Jacque met him several times through his life. When Jacque met him, he was talking to Jacque, and he said, "See that person over there? He's not very bright because he has a short forehead." He believed in phrenology. And when Jacque met him, he was doing the Dymaxium car, and he would say, "Yeah, it's got a lot of pickup." And Jacque was questioning it, and he said, "No, pick up women. You can pick up women." But
Always perfect.
Jacque, when Jacque met him, he would talk to him about social direction, because Jacque felt when he was very young that he really started looking for new social designs, because he was raised during the time of the Great Depression, and he looked around and he saw things in store windows, and he saw technology still there, and he saw the fields could still grow, but nobody was working because they didn't have money in their pockets. And he felt it was the rules of the game that the system went by that was ridiculous. And when he was very young, he started looking for new social directions. So he approached Buckminster Fuller on that too, and Fuller said something like, "Boy, I've got my car out. I can't even get my car out there." He said, "You want to change everything?" So, he didn't get too far with Fuller. Although Fuller later became pretty social in certain directions, but he didn't have any concrete plan, and he didn't really understand human behavior that well. He was pretty metaphysical in a lot of ways, and very poetic.
And Jacque started off the talk today by saying we don't have our own language. Fuller made up his own words.
He did, so does Jacque, a lot of ways, and he advocates that too. Yeah, then it becomes your word when Other people do that. Yeah, but the words are based on certain things too. You know, like Jacque came up with the idea with the word socio-cyberneering was the name of his nonprofit organization. It was before the word cyber came out and the big rage of cyber, but it was cybernation and engineering applied to the social design. So it's socio-cyberneering. Yeah, but it's based on something. So anyway, this concept, and you can have different designs. I don't know if I got that. So these are all different designs in architecture this is a cable-stayed building, like a bridge. There you go. You hold up the bridge. You know, in Russia, there's a lot of bridges that fall down, a lot of rooftops that fall down with a heavy weight. So this is very strong, and you don't need columns in here holding up in the middle. This is like a suspension bridge almost. He's got a lot of different designs like that. So, and then this is building. You know, you're talking about individuality. Well, do you think Jacque is an individual? You know what I mean? These people who are fighting and saying, "Whoa, we need more individuality." I think Jacque is more individual than anybody I've ever seen in the culture. I don't think Jacque would stand for a culture that didn't give people that range and the ability to create and design in many different ways. So, oh, this is the government.
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
Yeah, this is the government of the future. See, one of those panels, that's right. That's the Earth in real time. And one of those panels would be like for the Department of Agriculture. And it would, you can sort of think about it as it would have its electrical tentacles into the soil. When the water table dropped, it would pump more water in there. When the nutrients dropped, it would pump more nutrients in there. What does the government really do today? If you ask them, how do you make better transportation, they don't know. How do you eliminate war? They don't know. How do you get more yield per acre? They don't know. So what do they know? What are they doing? So you can enable technology to serve you best without, you know, it's like when there's a hurricane and a lot of the city is wiped out, and then they have the president fly over and look down and say, well, yes, there is a hurricane. Things are gone. So what? He doesn't know how to correct it.
So I mean, this means we're talking about manipulating the Earth's
power at any cost, at any rate, to the detriment of anybody or any country. The resource-based economy and the Venus Project is for the well-being of people and the protection of the environment. And when those are the core roots, along with other things that we're interested in, the thinking is very different, and the way you manipulate things has very different standards. Yeah. So anyway, these are cities in the sea, and the sea really has a wealth of resources in there. Today, the Army, I think it was the Army or the Navy, dumped 67 tons of nerve gas in metal containers off the Gulf. The Gulf Stream in about 1970 or so. So, you know, who are they protecting us? You know, they just carry out orders that are insane. And we'll be cleaning that up. So these are our cities, not just for enjoying yourself, but these are research centers to clean up the environment, clean up the oceans, and extract different things that might be needed from it.
Are these on pilings? Is that what it is?
Yeah, those are, you know, aircraft runways for the oceans.
So these,
yeah.
These foundations that go down to the floor?
They go down to the floor.
It's not floating. Some of these are different ways. Some of them have chambers in it that keep it anchored down there with cables and islands. And these are automatic bridge constructions right here with the catamaran, the white catamaran bringing out the bridge structures, and then they close and then they interlock, showing how many things can be automated. We can go. Look.
little roaches.
Yeah, roaches there a lot of times.
Yeah.
Every human being wants to be able to eat.
Just like your skin does many different things.
And don't get too close to the water.
Come over here if you want to take some pictures.
What algae?
Well, it moves around from spot to spot. You probably won't see it today. It's pretty cold. The babies are outside. It's all right. It won't bother you.
We used to carry the meetings in here, but now we're in the other building. So.
Yeah, they were trying to shoot a video, and an entertainer person came along and told Jacque break a leg, and he took it literally. So what are you going to do, you know?
I'm going to start with. Next time we'll try that. So, is that? I'm gonna wheel this so you can see it.
Yeah.
I mean, center.
For you. That's one piece of paper. Now you can't do that with a straight sheet. That's when all our buildings are curved. And much stronger curved surface. Those of you that are sitting back here, you can get up and get closer to watch this. And if you got a camera, it's a good thing to turn it on.
They're hollow inside this phone.
That's crazy. Is that just taped?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to sneeze.
Don't put them on the table though. Yeah. Thank you.
One at a time. That's why I don't want you to take my word for it.
How many we got?
Yep. 11.
She should have had a hardback on the bottom.
Yeah, probably. Wouldn't have mattered. Oh, that's not center.
Would you?
Looking at that?
Quarter of an inch.
That's already done. You want to wrap this back as a
You should have some over here. Yes.
Oh, okay.
I just gave
No, we
Oh,
have
wow,
to
very
use
much
them
of
all.
those. Excellent.
Hold that.
How many is that?
14. No, 15.
Yeah, it's just this paper.
Whoa.
Need more, Larry.
All right.
More.
That's
more,
amazing.
More.
Go all the way until it crushes.
We want more.
So it doesn't have a limit. Oh, it does.
No limit. We haven't reached it yet.
It's amazing.
Let's make the record.
Oh, you're getting near the limit, I think.
Right, you see some bubble?
It's a little wobble.
No? Don't sneeze, everybody.
That's incredible.
How many we got? For a record.
How many is your?
Do we have a record to beat? 32. Ooh.
Whoa.
You're not gonna make it on that rickety table.
It's not the table, as long as it's level. No, the table wouldn't do it at all. Oh, I gotta get more, huh? Are we out of them here? Watch your head when it falls.
Next one, a quarter of an inch away from you. 8.5 inches away from you.
This way?
More away from you.
Okay.
More.
How many is that?
26. That's one piece of paper.
This is bigger. I'm afraid. Let me try this one. 27?
You can catch the fall.
I'm trying again. I was thinking.
Yeah.
Go for the small.
Yeah.
Where's the ladder? Lift this.
Oh, wow.
I got it mid-fall.
Strong guys. The whole thing.
Lift it from the bottom.
Oh, that's the whole thing. I want to show you see how heavy it is.
You got it.
Yeah, that
makes sense.
What do you take, 50 pounds?
That's pretty.
50 pounds. No, I see that. You owe me a prize.
I'll give you the whole thing.
Bring it to the back.
And they took paper like this,
The Chinese made paper.
and they put one page behind the other. Until they had about 15 or 20 pages. Like this. And then they would spiral bind it together, like that.
You have to hold that up. I have to explain that again.
The Chinese would make paper and hold it up like that and spiral bind it. Now, in order to know what page it was on, they wrote a Chinese symbol on each page in the bottom corner. And if you happen to get a pad and go fast, that symbol jumped off. It didn't take an artist too long to draw a bird with wings in different positions in the corner of the paper. They went, and the bird did that. That was the beginning of motion picture. Nobody ever sat down and said, how to make a movie. It doesn't work like that. It works like this. little by little. Do you
We learn
understand?
by experience, is what you're getting at? We learn by experience.
Yes.
We're inspired by nature.
But the more you see of technology, the broader your technology approach. You understand?
Is the mic on?
So, there are lots of things you have to know. And mostly,
Roger can't hear you. Is the mic on?
Yeah, it's on.
so whenever they tell you angels fly around in heaven, angels have feathered wings according to drawings. And the feathered wing means a different biology altogether. So they can't even give you a good account of what the people do in fly. I would say God in His infinite wisdom could make people fly without wings. They don't need wings. If God wanted men to fly without wings, He'd fly without wings. So why is everything so logical? Because man can't work those things out. So when I tell you that we're not civilized yet. As long as we have armies, navies, prisons, police, we are not civilized. We will be civilized one day when we teach our children how nature works, how everything we know of works. And the things we don't know, we'll say, this is what we don't know. We have no idea how they work. When you do that, I use the term ruthlessly honest. Anyway, when the principal said, Jacque, I'm going to have to call your mother in. I said, you do whatever you have to do. So he calls my mother in. She comes in crying. What did he do? Principal said, he didn't do anything. Then what do you want? She says, I want to take him to a bookstore and buy the books he wants to read. But I want him to report to me once a week why he's reading that book. So that went on for 1.5 years. Then he died. And they cut that privilege out. So I played hooky for 6 weeks. I didn't go to school. I left home with books, but I always went to the public library or museums and read what I wanted to read. The reason I didn't like the school books, they had books like Dickie Dare and His Sheep. On the way he met a cow. Moo Moo said the cow. Ba Ba said the sheep. That is a nothing thing to give kids. You give kids Cinderella touches a white mouse and it turns into a beautiful horse. If you bring them kids with magic like that all the time, you damage kids. You should teach them about the physical world, everything we know about life and what we don't know, and not the field. But see, all the kids in this country, I'd say about 99% are alike. They say the same thing to me. Hey you, I can run faster than you. Or I bet I can fight you. Always the same thing. Why are they so competitive? Because the system is competitive. When I was a kid, all the movies had cowboys, and they had 2 guns, and they never sat down to discuss anything. They solved their problems with the guns. Do you remember that? In the early movies. So, we never had an intelligent society. So you never know what the future will hold. So what we're trying to do is tell people we need a different kind of society without money, without politics, and a lot of automation. And women would never have to write their congressman for equal rights. The congressman wouldn't exist, and they'd have equal rights to start with. A woman that can do the work of a man doesn't earn the same amount as a man. Did you know that? They're abused. And women are taught to obey their husband. That makes it easier for the church. We don't want women to obey their husband. We want them to disobey when they're stupid. And men are just as stupid as everyone else. And who wrote the laws? The men. You understand that? So you don't have equal rights. So someday women will be engineers, architects, planners. They won't be wiping the baby's ass or cooking for the old man. He'll do his own cooking sometimes. He'll switch. Anyway, now is the time to question the hell out of everything. And don't accept anything I say unless you check it out as best you can. So, any questions that you feel might be difficult to handle?
What would you suggest being like the best way of introducing the Venus Project? What would you suggest being the best way of introducing the Venus Project to others?
You have to teach them a little bit about science first. When you ask a scientist how strong this is, he says, I don't know. He has to put it in a machine and twist it, tell you when it fails, pull it apart, and teach them the methods of science, the public, so that nobody makes decisions in the Venus Project. They arrive at them, say, I don't know, to start with. So what's the best way to keep the oceans from killing the fish, and then stop poisoning the oceans? We've been dumping radioactive material into the ocean. Did you know that? Spent stuff. And if you keep doing that, you're going to kill the fish. And if you kill the fish, you're going to eventually kill the people. So people are stupid because they are stupid. You don't want them to do that. So you have to educate them, which takes longer. And we can't get on the air. I can't get on the air. Because Larry King said to me, can you avoid talking about the dangers of cigarettes? I said, yes, I can, but I won't. He said, why can't you talk about the future and just leave out the automobile companies? Because I said the automobile companies put an airbag in front of you. And if you hit in front, it inflates. It's good. But if you get hit on the side, your head goes right through the glass. So the whole inside has to be an airbag, not just in front of you. So he said, why don't they do that? I said, I can't answer that, Larry. Anyway, he said, can you come on the air and talk about other things? Don't attack the auto companies and the gasoline companies, because the gasoline companies don't want to see the electric car. Do you understand that? They like it when you drive an hour to work. They wouldn't like it if you lived across the street from where you worked. You wouldn't sell any gasoline that way. So they encourage you to enjoy driving to work. So I would say that your system is basically corrupt in the nature of its structure. Anyway, we want to get all the nations to join together, become one nation to take care of the earth and the environment. No dumping into the oceans or rivers or anything, or the air. A guy named Cottrell, about 80 years ago, designed a system to take smoke particles and pass them through an area where they become electrically charged. The next set of plates adheres to dust particles and smoke. So when you put one in the industrial stack, all you see is hot air coming out, no smoke. That could have been done 80 years ago. Still not done. So we don't apply science and technology where we can to make the world a better place. That's what I mean by a better place, where everybody has the opportunity to go to school without winding up in debt. You can become a doctor or anything, but you can't become a lawyer. There are no lawyers, no businessmen, no advertising in our society, and no funeral parlors. Because who's going to water your grave 150 years from now? Nobody. So no matter how many flowers you put there, it won't work. It still run away. People don't like that. They fly off to another place up in heaven where everything is okay. There's no evidence there. It exists in the human mind, yes.
With the system being so corrupt right now, like you just said, you know, with corporations, everything. If you were 19 years old right now, and you had your whole future in front of you, and you have all the knowledge that you have right now, how would you make what you're dreaming of happen?
Well, first of all, I would start instructing people, just like I'm doing here, trying to tell people there's another way. They think there's only the democratic way. The democratic way doesn't work. Because if something goes wrong with your house electricity, you call an electrician, not the butcher. When something goes wrong with your plumbing, you call a plumber. So we have to have technicians that advise us, not the average politician. They're not good at it. Any other questions? Now's the time.
Yes, earlier you were when you were talking about the KKK, and they were fascinated with what seemed like magic, and most scientists that I've run into don't have a lot of faith in psychic phenomena. What's your attitude toward that whole?
When I read about psychic phenomena, you know what that is? Things beyond the physical. They told me that people have certain qualities that scientists never talk about, and that is, you know what telekinesis means? Moving objects without touching them. So a priest came to my session, 2 priests and 1 nun. I said, what are you doing here, Father? He said, I've come to hear your ideas. I said, you might give up the church. He said, never. So after about 10 sessions, both ministers resigned from the church and the nun got married. So I'm telling you what happened. So what happened to the priest, I said, you have to be honest before you can learn this system. No more magic. So they said to me, first, before all this happened, they said, Jacque, there are many things beyond the physical that you never talk about. And I said, what's that? They said, telekinesis. I said, Father, have you ever seen it? Yes, I have. Take me there, because you're not a qualified observer, I don't think. So they took me to this woman at Palm Springs, California, who had the power of putting a jug on the table and moving that jug along the table. So that if she can do that, the hell was silence. So she put a jug on the table and began to move. So I took my fountain pen and I moved it along the table, like this. And I found a little buzz in it. So I peeled off the veneer. She had a bell buzzer upside down with 4 rubber shock mounts. And the table was highly polished, slightly tilted. And the vibration moved the jug down the table. So I said, Father, this is how it's done. He said, well, don't you believe there's any genuine stuff? I said, so far, I've never found any. I went to a guy's house who claimed he had perpetual motion. He could turn a wheel without any electric motor or anything turning it. So I said, I'd like to see it. He showed me that wheel. It was near the wall. I had a gadget called a magnetometer, and I put it near the wall, and I could trace magnets in the wall turning, which turned this gadget. So far, I've never experienced anything outside the physical, although I met a lot of people that claim that they talk to the dead. I said, what do you talk about? They don't answer that question. Yes?
Which is the right country you think you can start a prototype of the city?
Which is the right country you can start a prototype city?
I don't know.
Yeah.
When we're thinking in terms of Brazil, if it's in the tropics, it's better. If we have access to geothermal energy, that is the energy inside the earth, the heat. There's heat there constantly over the years and centuries. It never gets less. There's always more energy there. So if you use geothermal energy, whereas photoelectric cells depend on the sunlight, and if you have a cloudy sky,